Our challenge to you is to look at those things in your life that may be limiting your ability to grow into greater spiritual maturity, in which you can allow the higher perspectives of your enlightened self to take root in your life and start expanding in your life. And when you do this, you will come to realize greater and greater truths, and things that confuse you now about who you are, why you're here, who God is, and how you relate to the whole of humanity. These truths will begin to reveal themselves, and you will come to understand things that puzzle you. And so make note of those things in your life that are getting in the way. Now, it's very simple to do. It's easier to do if you already know how to meditate. But if not, don't make it a difficult thing. Find a quiet space, sit down or lie down. Maybe sit down so you don't fall asleep if you're not used to doing this. Breathe and feel your connection with the Mother Earth. Invite Gaia's energy up into you, and don't worry about whether that sounds crazy. And don't worry about, oh, is it really happening? Just do it. Just say, I invite the energy of Gaia, the earth, up into me, and I feel my oneness with Gaia. Focus on your breath. Slow your breathing down. And you don't have to do this for long. Take a couple of deep cleansing breaths, and then allow your breathing to slow into a steady rhythm, and just focus on the in-breath and the out-breath for a few breaths. And then ask yourself, from that place of calmness, what is limiting me? And you will get answers almost immediately. And it may be things that surprise you. It may be relationships that are not serving you. It may be things that you think you really enjoy, but maybe you spend too much time on. It may be things that you enjoy, but really just are not very enlightened and are a hindrance. And it may be substances that you use. Write these things down as they come to you. Have a pen and paper ready before you do this, before you sit and breathe, and just write them down. Just write down a word or 2 words, whatever it is, make a list. And then from that list, decide how you're going to reorient to these things. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of everything. In fact, that will fail. If you say, well, I'm going to stop drinking alcohol, and I'm going to stop watching TV, and I'm going to stop doing this, and I'm not going to see that person anymore. Guaranteed you will fail, because it's too much change at once. But be reasonable and ask yourself, ask your higher perspective to come through and show you what is a step you can take to start mastering that thing. And that doesn't mean it goes away necessarily, but mastering it meaning how to live in the world, how to have that be a part of your life, but not to the exclusion of your enlightenment. And one way to think about this is to think about a movie. And think about the perspective of all that is, and your oneness with it, which is enlightenment. Having knowledge of all things in the cosmos. That is a very, very, very big perspective. And think about all of these things that you focus on in your day-to-day life, or the things that perhaps become, I don't want to say addiction, but become more of a habit that can become self-limiting. And think about those things as a movie that you might watch. If you go to a movie, you know that it's just a temporary thing that you're choosing to do, to see, and you spend 2 hours there, and then you go back to your normal life, which seems so real to you. Well, anything that you do in your life that is becoming a habit, that is self-limiting, is a temporary thing. It's not that important, in the same way that you can see a movie and you can forget about it the minute you leave, if it's not a memorable movie. And if it is one, maybe it stays with you for a few days and you want to talk about it with people. But it's a temporary thing. And everything that you think is so permanent in your life, who you see, what you do, where you go, where you work, what you study, habits, what you eat, what you prefer to eat, what you don't prefer to eat and drink and do. All of these things are temporary vis-a-vis the larger perspective of all that is. And in the same way that you could see a movie over and over and over and over and never leave it, if the theater allowed you to do that, if you found the movie so engrossing and you just sat there and you watched it over and over and over and over, well, you're doing that to the exclusion of everything else that happens in your life. And if you take any of those things that happen in your life and you focus on them over and over and over and over, and that just becomes what you do, and that becomes who you are and why you're here and how you move about the world and how you relate to everyone in it, well, then you're excluding all that is. That's really all enlightenment is. It's realizing that these things that go on in the earth plane are like watching a movie. They're temporary. But if it's all you focus on, you don't allow enlightenment to come through. It's really that simple. And as we said, there is more opportunity to allow enlightenment to come through now than there ever has. And so our message is to start developing that spiritual maturity. Make your list of those things that are holding you back, and don't be thinking about it. Get into that quiet place, that meditative place. Ask, what is holding me back, and write it down. Even if your mind says, well, that's not true, because it may come up with someone or something that is actually not in your highest interest. And your mind may go, but I like that thing. Well, if your higher self is telling you that it's getting in your way, you may need to rethink your relationship to it. That doesn't mean it necessarily has to go away completely, but rethink the importance it has in your life. And when you can do this and start to take it very seriously, have fun with it, but take it seriously, meaning that you give it importance and credence and prioritization in your life experience. Do this and watch and see how enlightenment starts to press itself down upon you, and you will see it show up as higher perspectives. You will see it show up as more compassion, as greater joy, as greater acceptance of these things around you and these people around you, as less tendency to be irritable, as less tendency to be depressed or fearful. Because enlightenment is alignment with pure divine love. And that is who you truly are at the core. That is your magnificence. And when you allow it to come through, you feel it and you express it. And other people notice it. And gradually over time, you will make shifts to where certain things that may seem very important in your life now will just fall away. And you will want them to. You may not be able to fathom it now because you're really identified with that thing. But when you reach the higher perspective, you will be glad that they fall away, because you will start to see how magnificent you really are and how big it really gets. And that's why you're here. So we encourage you to put it to the test. And we wish you blessings on your journey.